You know that sound, right? That pure, heart-melting giggle from a baby when a familiar face disappears behind a pair of hands and then suddenly reappears? It's peekaboo, and it's probably the very first joke any of us ever learned to love.
But have you ever really stopped to wonder why? I mean, why does this incredibly simple game of hide and reveal work every single time? What is actually going on behind those wide, delighted eyes? Okay, let's really get into it because the answer is so much deeper and more fascinating than you might think. All right, so for a long, long time, the go-to explanation for why babies love peekaboo was tied to one of the biggest milestones in their mental development. It all starts with a simple idea that completely changes how they see the world.
And that idea is called object permanence. The famous psychologist Jean Piaget was a real pioneer here. See, for a tiny infant, the world is just what's right in front of them. If they can't see you or hear you or touch you, you've kind of just stopped existing.
So, what's really amazing is how this whole thing unfolds in stages. In those very first months, when you hide your face, you have, in a very real sense, just vanished from the universe. So, when you pop back into view, it's not just a surprise, it's a genuine, magical reappearance. The game of peekaboo is literally a tiny miracle happening over and over again.
But here's the thing. As important as object permanence is, it's really only the first piece of the puzzle. Modern research has shown that babies are way smarter than we used to give them credit for. The magic of peekaboo isn't just about whether you exist or not. It's about something far more exciting.
Because it turns out peekaboo isn't just a lesson in physics, it's a baby's first masterclass in comedy. They aren't just being surprised, they are actually getting the joke. So, this is a huge shift in thinking. We've gone from seeing the baby as just a passive observer who thinks you vanished to understanding they're an active little scientist who's starting to form a hypothesis. Hey, I bet you're going to come back. And the whole game is about testing that theory.
This is all based on what's called the incongruity resolution theory of humor. Think of it like a recipe. First, something unexpected happens. That's the incongruity. Your face is gone. Then, their little brain works to make sense of it. They realize, oh, they were just hiding. That's the resolution. And the result? That burst of pure joy. Laughter is the sound of their brain successfully solving that puzzle.
This means they're not just being entertained, they are actively learning the basic rules of how the world works. And with every single boo, their prediction is confirmed. That feeling of mastery, of being right, is just incredibly rewarding for them.
But believe it or not, we're still just scratching the surface. Because peekaboo isn't a game a baby can play alone. It's one of their very first lessons in what it means to be human and to connect with other people.
I mean, just think about it for a second. To really play peekaboo, you have to give a baby your complete undivided attention. You can't really do it while you're scrolling on your phone. It demands eye contact, and that is the most powerful, fundamental form of social connection we have. For a baby, that focused attention is absolutely everything. And in that little shared space, they are learning the building blocks for every relationship they'll ever have. They learn the back and forth rhythm of a conversation. I hide, you laugh, you smile, I do it again. They learn that even when you go away for a second, you always come back, which builds this deep sense of trust and security. And so importantly, they learn that their own actions, their giggles, their smiles, have power. They can make you keep playing with them. Okay, so we've talked about the thinking part and the social part. Now let's get into the biology. What is physically happening inside a baby's brain and their nervous system during this simple little game? Well, for a baby, being connected to their caregiver literally equals survival. So when your face disappears, their nervous system gets a tiny jolt of surprise, maybe even a micro moment of stress. But then, bam, you reappear with a big smile, and they're just flooded with relief and joy. Playing this over and over is like taking their emotional regulation system to the gym. It teaches them in a totally safe way how to handle little stresses and come right back to feeling calm and happy.
Now, what's really cool is the specific brain chemistry at play here. That amazing feeling of reward when their prediction comes true, that's a rush of dopamine, the neurotransmitter for pleasure and motivation. And that warm, secure feeling they get from the eye contact and the play, that's oxytocin, what people often call the bonding hormone. It's this powerful neurochemical cocktail that makes them want to play again and again and again.
And that repetition is everything.
Every single time you play, you are physically strengthening the connections between their brain cells, the ones related to prediction, social reward, and trust. You're not just playing a game, you are literally helping to wire their brain for a lifetime of healthy relationships and learning. So, when you pull all these different threads together, it becomes crystal clear. Peekaboo isn't just one thing. It's a cognitive puzzle, it's a social lesson, and it's a neurochemical workout, all rolled into one. It is a true developmental powerhouse. And what's so fascinating is how the game itself grows up right alongside the baby. A 4-month-old is just delighted by the magical surprise. An 8-month-old is laughing because they correctly predicted what would happen. And then by about a year old, they're the ones starting the game, grabbing a blanket to hide their face. The game adapts to meet them exactly where they are. So, the next time you see a baby just erupt in laughter during a game of peekaboo, remember what you are really witnessing. It's not just a simple little reaction. It is the sound of a whole series of profound discoveries all happening at once. They're discovering that things that disappear actually come back. They're discovering that they can predict the future. And maybe most importantly of all, they are discovering that through a shared look and a shared laugh, they have the power to create a perfect moment of connection. And really, what in the world could be more worthy of a laugh than that?